Good morning. Welcome back to the Divine Now. I'm so glad to have you this morning. It's Friday, and it is a beautiful Friday morning outside. I'm going to go for a bike ride in a few minutes. And I just wanted to, this morning, share a thought. And it's probably one of the most challenging thoughts that I have wrestled with in the last few years as I consider my growth as a person, as a human being. And that is this: I am responsible for my happiness, and you are responsible for your happiness. No one else is responsible for that other than ourselves. And that's the reason why I say that's a very tough lesson to learn, is because we have been conditioned by, let's just say, society around us to allow things to determine our happiness. Cars, houses, vacations, etc. You can just there's a plethora of things that we use, out external things that we use to make us happy. Also, people. We have placed the responsibility for our happiness on other people, our parents, our friends, our lovers, our friends, etc. Now, the reason why I say we're responsible for our happiness is because things outside of us can't really make us happy. They might add happiness to our lives in a given moment, but true happiness comes from an inner acceptance, an inner wealth of appreciation for who you are, an inner sense that you are okay no matter what's happening outside of you. So, this state of happiness, this state of okayness, has nothing to do with things and people, but it has everything to do with what's going on inside of us, how we perceive the world, how we perceive ourselves, how we trust ourselves, how we choose to embrace ourselves, how we choose to honor our humanity, our personal humanity. All of this is what really embodies true happiness. So I guess maybe the question is, what is happiness? Does happiness mean that I'm smiling all the time and that I'm always in a joyful state? Not necessarily. Happiness can mean that in a given moment, I'm just in a state of peace. I'm serene. I'm in a place of serenity. I am okay with who I am. And so many people are not okay with who they are. And that's why they're trying to find happiness outside of themselves, in things, in people, in places. Finding happiness, true happiness, a true sense of peace, a true wealth of self, involves really going inward and doing a lot of inner work, dealing with our personal traumas, our past, our present, our assessment of our future. All of these things are intertwined. And these things are resolved through a lot of inner personal work. It doesn't have to be grueling, but it is work. And it does take time. It does take getting alone with yourself, discovering who you are, learning who you are. So many people are so busy living life that they don't even know who they really are, or they really haven't taken time to carve out who they really want to be, which is what allows them to tap into their own inner wealth of happiness or peace, or what I'll call spiritual homeostasis, where you're at a balance with yourself. This is what happiness, in my opinion, is. This is what many of the sages and the spiritual people tell us what happiness is about. It's an inward journey, not an outward reality. When we have when we're working on the inner, when we're allowing ourselves to be happy from within, then we can approach situations and be happy in that moment. We can be happy in an elegant restaurant where we're getting the best filet mignon on the planet, and we feel a sense of happiness, or we can be happy at a McDonald's having a cheeseburger and an order of fries. And those two things are so distant from one another, but we can experience the same measure of happiness because of our appreciation for the gift of just being able to eat. So happiness isn't about necessarily all the external things as much as it is about the internal work that we're doing, that's giving us an assessment, an appreciation for ourselves, those around us, and how we approach life. So again, what is happiness? Happiness is this wealth of being that comes from within. And then when we sort of achieve that or we have moments of that, when we step into various scenarios, we give that happiness as like sunlight to others. It it emanates from our being, this sense of peace. Why is Stacy so at peace? Why is John so at peace? Why do they seem so serene? Why are they so happy? They just lost their job or they just got this measure of bad news and yet they're at peace. Why? Because they somehow have been doing the inner work to discover what true happiness really is all about. I hope this has encouraged you this morning. As we think about this notion of happiness, we're just sort of scratching the surface just a little bit. But I want you to think about your own definition of happiness as you move forward in your day to day or tomorrow or this next year. What does it mean to be happy? Do I want to one day drive a Lamborghini? Sure, I would love to. But you know what I realized? Lamborghinis need the same thing. New tires, oil changers, they break down. They're not eternal beings. No matter how expensive the car is, it has a shelf life. Would I love to have a Big John mansion one day? Of course I would. But you know what? Mansions need repair too. There are mortgages on mansions as well, unless you've got the money to pay for it outright. So these external things, though they may give the appearance of making people happy, they don't. Happiness is something that comes from within us. It is who we become. It's the work we do as we walk through and work through our pain. As I said earlier, our trauma, if we've experienced it, as we work through discovering who we are as people, building our identity, finding our true sense of self, learning to love who we are and embracing all that we are. That really is the essence, the embodiment of happiness, peace, okayness. So may you be blessed today. Thank you for joining me. This is another episode of The Divine Now. Peace.